All right, now it's time for us to set up this habit adder area to have a big list of icons to choose from instead of a name that you type in. Because we're going to be working on the habit adder, it's going to be really annoying if every time we reload the page, it's hidden. So let's make it open by default by saying show adder is true. It's also bothering me that the default item here is blank. So why is that even happening? It's because the name that we have for our default habit item is clean up. And that's from before when we were just typing in whatever name we wanted. But now the names are corresponding to keys in the icons object. So let's pick a key from here. Let's go with Dizzy. And we'll go back to here and let's paste in emotions _ Dizzy. And now we see the corresponding icon show up because we already modified habit item to show the icons corresponding to the name that we give it. All right, now let's go and set up our habit adder. Let's go to habit adder, and we're going to make some big changes here. So we're going to delete most of the code out of the render method, delete all the CSS, and the name prop. I'm going to delete all that stuff. And here inside of section, we want to loop through all of the icons and display all of them inside of buttons. We know how to loop through arrays, right? We can say for item in list, and that's how you loop through an array. But to loop through an object, it's slightly different. We would say for own key, value of object. So that's the syntax for looping through an object in Imba. Now the object that we want to loop through is icons, and we can name these something else. So key will actually be name, and value, I'm going to call it icon. So let's put a div here, and let's just write name to see what we get. And we see all of the keys of the icons object. That's good. Now let's change this to an SVG and say src equals icon.svg. Remember that Imba allows us to use a source attribute on an SVG tag. That's a special Imba feature. And inside of our icons object, each of the icons has an SVG property that has all the SVG code for an icon. And if you pass that code into the source attribute, Imba will render it. So let's save, and we see all of our icons showing up. That's great. Now I'm going to add a little bit more HTML here. We want these to be buttons, so I'm going to put a button tag around our SVG. And I'm going to put one additional div here that's just for the benefit of our styling. Div with a class of icon view. Then I'll indent the SVG inside of that. And we can delete this comment. And I wrote some CSS ahead of time that I'm just going to paste in here. So let me just come in here, paste in the CSS. And now we have some nice looking buttons. And this is a really cool layout because this drawer, it toggles and it fills up as much space as it can, leaving just enough space for the habit group at the top. So if I make this bigger, we can see more icons. And if I make it wider, it's a really nice grid layout that presents all the icons. And where it runs off the bottom, it scrolls. So the user can scroll down to see all the icons and you'll be able to click them to add it. But that doesn't work yet, so let's hook it up. So of course we're going to need some sort of a click event on this button, and then we want to do basically the same thing we were doing before where we emit a habit added event with the name. But of course in this case it's not the name that was typed in, it's the key of the icon that we're now calling name. So I think this would be a good challenge for you to give this a try. And here it is, I've typed it out. Now this challenge could be a little bit tricky because I haven't specified exactly how to do it. You have to figure it out a little bit. But what I want you to do is to make this work so that when you click one of these buttons, these button tags here, which is any of the icons in our preview here, when you click one, it should add it to the habit group. We should see it across the top. So you need to figure out how to make an event handler that will emit the correct habit added event along with the correct value for name. Go ahead and give that a try. Don't worry if you get stuck because I'm going to show you how to do it in just a sec. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to do is add a click to here. And what's going to happen when we click? Well, we have this existing handle submit method, and we could make use of that. Let's try that first. So we'll say handle submit. And if we do that, there's not going to be any value for name. Like, where is name coming from? So let's try clicking, and you see we get something empty here. And this part here resets name to an empty string, which is not really relevant anymore. So how do we get name into here? Well, we could add a name parameter to this handle submit method, and we could actually just pass it along here so that when you click, Handle submit gets this name, which is defined right here. Let's try that. Cool, that works. Now handle submit is not really the right name because we're not submitting a form anymore. It should be handle click. But I think even better would be just to take this and make this a one-liner, paste that in there. We don't need this handler at all. Delete all of that. And now we just have at click, emit, habit added with name, and that's this name here. So that should work. Let's make sure. Cool.